Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 61 of the Resilient Podcast. I am your host, Robert Aurelius, and as always, I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me. Whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, or wherever you enjoy your podcasts, thank you for continuing to be part of this incredible journey. Today's episode is called Divine Timing, when rejection becomes redirection. And I want to start this episode with a simple question. Have you ever felt like life forgot about you? Have you ever watched people around you get promoted, get married, buy homes, launch businesses, or seemingly move ahead while you were left wondering, when is it finally going to be my turn? The truth is, I think we've all been there, because I know I have. And the reason for that is because the first half of this year tested me professionally. Work was slower than I expected. And like many people, I questioned whether I was doing enough. I continued applying for opportunities. I interviewed, did a lot of networking, and believing that eventually something would happen, because my workload was so little to begin this year. And I was like, look, I'm not doing much. And sometimes people go crazy when they're not doing much. When people are known to be workaholics, they just, they start going nuts. And, I had people saying to me, listen, hey, Rob, don't worry. Just take advantage of this break. Take advantage of this time that you have right now, because you never know, eventually at some point you're going to be back on track and you're going to be making a lot of money and whatnot. And I'm like, well, it's a new year and I don't want to start off this year with such a light workload, But when people said hey, listen, don't worry about it, you'll be back on track soon. Then an opportunity came along that I thought I was that was actually going to define my entire summer, because I was interviewing about a month and a half ago with the House of Creed. And it looked like I was going to be spending the next few months working in the Hamptons throughout Labor Day weekend. And I was excited. This literally happened. I received an email from them for a summer pop-up, that they have a boutique in the Hamptons. And they literally reached out to me a day after Oliver Creed passed away. So I found it very, very interesting. So, I literally thought that, wow, I've applied to positions with Creed in the past, never heard back from them. So I said, finally, I'm getting this opportunity to work with them as a brand ambassador. And I was excited. And I began, planning my schedule and mentally preparing myself for what I believed was my next chapter. I started reaching out to people and saying, I didn't reach out to everybody, which is a good thing, but I reached out to some folks. I spoke to my therapist and said, hey, listen, there's a possibility I'm going to be away for the summer. So I just wanted people to know, you know, the people, the people that I felt were important to inform about that. And then I received the news, like, I don't know, because I had interviewed went very well, and I did the interview like mid-May or something like that. Um, and I received the news from the lady who interviewed me via email that they were going to move forward with another candidate. And I'll be honest, it was very disappointing because I was like, man, like, I've always wanted to work with Creed. I've worked with brands like Amouage. I've worked with, brands like Mind Games, which I'm currently working with right now. Um, I worked with Diptyque, Memo Paris, big brands. I was disappointed because I've always felt that, whenever we invest our time and our energy and our hopes into something, rejection naturally hurts, right? And, that experience reminded me of something I think we all need to hear. Sometimes rejection isn't rejection at all. Sometimes it's simply redirection. Sometimes life isn't saying no. Sometimes life is simply saying to us, not yet, you know? So, I'm so excited because what ended up happening was I started working again with Mind Games, which is a brand that I started working with in 2024, and it's another niche luxury brand. And with Mind Games, I was working with them in New York City, and I was working with them. I was working with Dolce and Gabbana, and I was working more with Dolce and Gabbana full time. And Mind Games is just a brand that I was working with, like on a I don't know, like special events level. And then I picked up some hours with them shortly after there was a transition. And you know at the time, the company itself, the fragrance group, which the Mind Games is under, they also produced another they started distributing another brand called Acro. And Acro is actually owned by Olivia Cresp, who is actually the gentleman behind some of the best fragrances in the world. And two of the fragrances that I admire from him that he made, aside from his fragrances from Acro, is the famous Dolce Gabbana Light Blue and Dolce Gabbana Devotion. He's the gentleman behind those amazing fragrances. So Acro was having an event in Bloomingdale's 59th Street, and Olivia Crest was there, and they were teaching a master class. So I was excited to be part of that. And then I think the last time that I worked for Mind Games, or for the fragrance group, was September, mid September. And then I did not start working with them again until shortly after uh, my 40th birthday. A good friend of mine named Joe, who I looked out for a few years back and helped him get a job with the famous brand Bond Number Nine. Him and I had been having a conversation, and I was telling him, yeah, I don't know how the summer's gonna look like for me. It seems like it's gonna be very light. And Joe's like, oh no, this is the time to make money. And I was like, I know, right? And then he's like, what are you doing these days? I was like, listen, just working with ARCG. ARCG turned 13 years last month. And I said to him, I'm doing my podcast, I'm doing all these other things. And he asked me, hey, how's the documentary coming along? And I said to him, well, the documentary, it's not available yet, it's not ready yet. There's been a lot of moving parts though. And then he was like, how's things with Mind Games? And I said, oh, I haven't worked with them in a while. So long story short, he introduced me to Lisa, who is the account executive, regional account executive out in the north like New Jersey area, New Jersey, Nassau County. So when he introduced me to Lisa, Lisa was like, "Yeah, if you're active with us on the roster, why not pick up some shifts?" So I did, and here, I started working for them like a madman. Unfortunately, because of many demands of my time, I'm not able to work with Cody as much as I would like to. For those of you that remember, I started working with Cody last year. As soon as I left Dolce Gabbana, I started working with Cody, and Cody's the company that I've had the longest tenure with. 15 years. This year, I made 15 years with Cody. So, as much as I would love to work with them, um, I'm just really, 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 really busy. But folks, we're going to take a brief break right now, and before we continue this conversation, I just want to take a moment before we go on break to first thank one of our sponsors um, for the portion of today's episode. This segment is proudly sponsored by Nala Health, which is founded by Victor Melgar. And Nala is one of my favorite brands, and I've always talked to you guys about it. And at Nala, the mission is simple, to treat the whole person, not just the symptoms. And whether you're looking to improve your physical health, emotional well-being, or overall just quality of life, Nala Health is committed to helping you become the healthiest version of yourself. So to learn more about Nala, just visit the website right here on the screen, which is www.nalahealth.com. And remember, folks, like I mentioned to you guys in all episodes, when you purchase something from the Nala website, don't forget to use the promo code TRP10 at checkout right here on the screen, TRP10, to receive your exclusive discount while supporting the Resilient Podcast. So for those that are listening to the Resilient Podcast on the platforms that I mentioned in the beginning of the episode, for those that watch the Resilient Podcast on YouTube, please use the code TRP10 and you will receive a special discount of 10% on your um, order. And it's a reoccurring discount. It's not a one-time thing, but check out Nala Health, nalahealth.com right here on the screen. And folks, enjoy. It's great holistic medicine, CBD, CBN, CBG. One of my favorite products is their phytoceuticals. They have formulas for people that want a boost of serotonin, for energy, for focus. A lot of people suffer from ADHD, right? So it's just a beautiful brand, and the brand itself speaks for itself. So check them out, nalahealth.com. And folks, we will be right back. We're taking a brief break, and I'll talk to you all soon. Welcome back to the Resilient Podcast, folks. It is episode 61 of the Resilient Podcast. Again, I am your host, Rob Aurelius. Thank you for tuning in. And, as I shared before the brief break, I truly believed I knew what my summer was going to look like, right? Summer 2026. I had a plan. I thought I had everything figured out, but, life had a different plan for me, and that's completely fine. Because, the older I get, the more I realize that one of the greatest mistakes we make is believing that our timeline is the only timeline that matters. We want everything now. We want the promotion now. We want the relationship now. We want the dream job now. And we want, most importantly, the healing now. But what if we're asking for something that we're not fully prepared to receive? You ever thought about that? So, that's a difficult question to ask ourselves because none of us likes to wait, right? I don't think anybody likes to wait. And, waiting can feel lonely. Waiting can make us question our worth. Waiting can make us wonder if we've, somehow failed. I have friends that talk to me about that. But here's what I've learned. Waiting doesn't always mean you're being denied. Sometimes you're being developed. Looking back over the first half of this year, from like January to mid-May, I realized that even though work had slowed down for me, I wasn't standing still. I was still building relationships. I was still growing ARCG media. I was still recording this podcast. I was still showing up every single day of the week. And at the time, it didn't feel like progress. But today, I realized it was preparation. I remember I went to go see uh my doctor for like, the beginning of the year checkup. Because, I am diabetic, so I do see my doctor every 3 months. And it was the first appointment of the year. And I was talking to this nurse who usually draws my blood. And she was asking me how are things and everything. And, I mentioned to her, I was like, oh, business has been slow. Everything's been slow, whatever. And, this economy is so bad. And I remember her saying to me, like, listen, don't worry. You're going to find something soon, or your work is going to come back, full blaze. And, you'll be right back on track. Don't worry about it. And the next time I see her, I'm going to tell her, I was like, listen, you told me to be patient. And you told me that something new was coming and something good was in store for me. And you was absolutely right. But here's the thing. Preparation isn't always exciting because most people will never see the sacrifices you make behind the scenes. They won't see the interviews that didn't lead anywhere. They won't see the doors that closed. They won't even see the nights where you questioned yourself. They'll only see the moment everything finally comes together. That's why you should never compare your journey to someone else's. You're comparing your behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel. And I wouldn't recommend that. I wouldn't recommend comparing anything. And the reason why I say that is because at the end of the day, everyone's timeline is different. Everyone's story is different. And that's okay. Because look, I've mentioned this a few times already, but the truth is, I'm 40 years old now. And one thing I've learned is that life rewards consistency far more than it ever rewards speed. So you don't have to arrive first. You just have to keep moving. One of my favorite quotes that I read a long time ago, and I've heard people say it to me so many times. And, it's funny because I even saw it on social media the other day. But this quote literally says, what's meant for you will never miss you. And it's crazy because recently I went through something. There was a connection that I had for quite some time. And I was so happy with this connection because this connection was making me feel alive for such a long time. And I recently lost that connection. And when I lost that connection, that was one of the first things that came to my mind was what's meant for you will never miss you. So, I've thought about that quote a lot over the last, month or so. And the thing is, if the Creed opportunity was truly meant for me, it would have happened. And it didn't. But that doesn't make it a failure. You understand what I'm saying? Like, it simply means something else was waiting. And now, as I begin this new chapter with Inicio, I don't look back with regret. I look back with gratitude. Because every no I received eventually led me to a yes. And it felt right. So, maybe maybe you're listening today after losing a job. Maybe you're trying to rebuild your life after disappointment. I want you to hear me when I say this to you, for those that are listening and watching this podcast. Don't allow one closed door to convince you that the hallway is empty. Because sometimes the very opportunity you're praying for is already making it towards you. You just haven't reached it yet, you know? So, folks, I do have to say this to you. Patience is a virtue. And this is coming from someone who didn't believe in patience. This is coming from someone who, just always wanted things their way. But divine timing has taught me so much. It has taught me so much. And I'm like, you know what? You just got to let things be. You really do. And, it's funny because today I was looking at the cards of James. And I usually talk about the cards of James towards the end of the episode. But the reason why I am bringing the cards of James early in the podcast is because I have another set of cards that I'll be reading to you guys soon, and you know exactly why. But in the cards of James today, it says, "Believe in yourself, and you'll be unstoppable." And for those that are watching on YouTube, there it is. Believe in yourself, and you will be unstoppable. Listen, all the opportunities you're going to get in life are opportunities that you deserve. That's just how I feel. But here's the thing. You're going to receive those opportunities because you believed in yourself. And once you believe in yourself, nothing else matters. Nothing will stand in your way. Consistency, determination, drive, all of that, nothing's going to stop you. Nothing's going to get in your way. I mean, they can attempt to get in your way. There can be obstacles and whatever the case may be trying to get in your way. But if you're determined to reach the end of the tunnel, sometimes you're just going to go just like that, just, in the rate of speed light. And that's what I want people to understand. So, that card today, when I picked it out of the deck from the cards of James, I was like, man, it's true. It's beautiful. But listen, it's July. The weather's been so far. A lot of beautiful things are happening. I've been working like a madman, and I've been enjoying the summer, but at the same time, been working hard. I've been going to the gym. I'm so happy. I'm getting my life back on track, one step at a time. But I'll share with you all what I believe is the greatest lesson that divine time has taught me. But I want to take this time because there's a new wave now going on with the Resilient Podcast. Now, like I mentioned to you guys in episode 60. So we have 3 sponsors now on the Resilient Podcast. And, I'd like to take another opportunity to thank another one of our incredible sponsors. And this segment right here is probably sponsored to you by Maddie Rocks Coffee. And like Maddie Rocks Coffee, I always say, whether you're starting your morning, pushing through your long day at work, or simply enjoying a quiet moment to yourself, Maddie Rocks Coffee is there to fuel your passion one cup at a time. Folks, it's summertime now. So for those that like to drink iced coffee, for those that love to drink cold brew, visit Maddie Rocks Coffee right here. The link is on the screen. And don't forget to use our promo code TRP10 at checkout to receive 10% while supporting the Resilient Podcast. When you listen to the Resilient Podcast, when you watch the Resilient Podcast, and you buy Maddie Rocks Coffee, 10% off your purchase. It's that simple. So I know you people love coffee, so try it out. Thanks to the Resilient Podcast, you get 10% off. And it's really good coffee. Trust me. I have a cup a day every morning. Every morning I have a cup of coffee, 7 days a week. So, folks, we talked about divine timing, and here's the thing. We're going to be coming to an end of this episode soon. But before we do that, I want to leave everyone with a final thought. And I want you to think about this long and hard. When we experience rejection, our first reaction, for the most part, is often to ask, why did this happen to me? Maybe the better question is, what is this experience trying to teach me? Because, if I had spent time this entire year focusing on every single opportunity that didn't work out, I probably wouldn't have recognized the opportunities that were quietly making their way towards me. But, as I mentioned before, I'm grateful. Today, I'm very grateful. Grateful for the interviews that challenged me. Grateful for the conversations that helped me grow. Grateful for every closed door that redirected me towards one that was meant for me. For me, it's a reminder that persistence matters. Relationships matter. Character matters. Sometimes the seed you plant today they don't bloom until months or even years later. And the fact of the matter is, and the truth is, that it's okay. Because success isn't always about how fast you arrive. It's about becoming the person you're meant to be by the time you get there. And I strongly believe in that. And you know who told me that? My therapist. So wherever you are in your life right now, listen to me closely, friends. I want to encourage you to keep believing, keep preparing, keep showing up, keep improving, keep trusting the process. Because your breakthrough may be much closer than you think. And, before we end today's episode, I'd like to thank our final sponsor, which is dun, 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 the You Good brand with my good folks. Real talk, real connection. Thank you, Gabe, for this deck. As you all heard and saw in episode 60, Gabe introduced the You Good brand. And this is going to be a new thing I'm doing every episode now moving forward. We're going to talk until I run out of these cards. But today we're going to talk about brotherhood bonds. So before I do that, this segment right now is sponsored by the You Good brand. And, this is very deep to me and this is very personal to me because mental health begins with one simple question that can change someone's day or even their life. And that question is, you good? So, sometimes we become so focused on our own struggles that we forget the people around us. Maybe, carrying burdens that we can't even see. So I want you all to take a moment this week. Now that you're listening and watching this episode, I want you to take a moment and check in on someone you love. Whether it's a conversation, a phone call, or even a simple text can remind someone that they're not alone. To support the You Good movement, I want you all to do one simple thing, and that is to visit their website right here on the screen. And, when you do, they have beautiful merch. They have such great things on their website. But remember, when you're at checkout, it's the same thing. Make sure to use the code TRP10 at checkout because every purchase helps supports organizations and conversations dedicated to mental health awareness while also supporting the Resilient Podcast. So right now, I have this card here, and I'm going to share with you all. Where did my card go? I had a card with me, and then I must have put it down, and it disappeared. Oh, it's right in front of me. Look at that. Only, the folks that are watching on YouTube right now are probably getting a nice little kick out of this. Here it is. How do you celebrate your friends when they win? And this is a question that this card's asking me, so now I'm going to answer. When my friends win, for example, I had a friend who earlier this year got their dream job. They passed the bar. And now they're officially a lawyer and they're practicing. And actually, as a matter of fact, they already had their first case in court. That's how quick it was. And, this friend of mine lives in Florida. But, what we did was all my friends were like, listen, we're not going to celebrate in Florida. Yeah, we'll probably have a drink or two in Florida. But they're like, Rob's out there. Rob's in New York. And, we can't celebrate without Rob. And I was actually very busy during that week because that was one of the weeks that business was going well for me. So my friends reached out to me and they're like, hey, listen, so and so passed the bar. And, I was like, oh, yeah, I know. She told me. And I was like, yeah, so, we're planning to celebrate and we're going to do something small here in Florida, but we're going to go out to New York. And I was like, okay, when are you guys thinking? And they were like, probably in the next week and a half. So I was like, okay, cool. Just let me know the dates. And, they came down, we celebrated. And my friend, who I've known for such a long time, I've known her since we were kids. She was so happy to see me because the last time she had seen me was, before the holidays, 2025. And she's like, Rob, the last time I saw you, I was freaking out. And look, I'm officially a lawyer. I am going to be one of the greatest lawyers ever. And I said, yes, you will. No doubt about that. And she was like, thank you for always helping me during my journey. And thank you for helping me become resilient. And I was like, you did it all by yourself. I was just there to support you. And she's like, you never want to take credit for things. And I was like, listen, this is effort. This is teamwork. There's no one person involved in one person's success. Like success is a, that's why when and I've mentioned this before, this is why when like I hear the self-made, I mean, you can be self-made to a certain aspect, a certain degree, but the fact of the matter is your success comes from those that support you and the work that you put in. Don't ever forget that. This podcast is successful because of the people that listen and watch this podcast. ARCG Media, my company that just turned 13 years last month, we celebrated 13 years because of the success, because of the supporters, because of the people that have invested in ARCG to keep it around. But, my friend, when we celebrated, I know that she recently had, and not to put her business out there, but she gave me permission to talk about this because I did tell her I was going to bring this up eventually on the podcast. But she had been talking to someone, and this is a fellow lawyer, and she thought this relationship, this connection was going to be gold because she's like, oh, listen, like I'm planning to be a lawyer. He's already a lawyer. Two lawyers together, we're going to tear the house down. And turns out that this lawyer that she was seeing wasn't the best person personality wise. And she's like, listen, this person is a great lawyer, but they're not a great partner. And she just felt very discouraged because she was so looking forward to building with this person. And she was just calling me every night. And she's like, Rob, when will I find love? And I said to her, look, don't go looking for love. Let love find you. And I told her this like 4 times on the phone. And she goes, you said that to me. I was like, and I will not stop saying that to you. Let love find you. You know, my ex-girlfriend, APA, when we broke up, she said to me that her therapist had told her during the time that me and her were about to break up, the therapist had said to her, don't go looking for love. Be the love. And that love that you deserve will come for you. And I said to her, please count your blessings, not your problems. Please understand that this was just something that needed to happen. It was a little distraction, but don't lose focus on what's important right now. What's important right now in your life? And she goes to me, my bar exam. I said, exactly. So don't lose touch of that. Do not allow yourself to fall off the rails. Stay locked in. That's your main focus. That's your main priority. Pass your bar exam. And then once you pass your bar exam, then you can worry later on eventually about who you want to go on a date with. But focus about your first case in a courtroom. And she was like, thank you so much. So, I got her some gifts. I got her a favorite fragrance. And I wrote something to her. I wrote a beautiful, beautiful letter to her. And I put it in an envelope. And when I gave it to her, she goes to me, why are you giving me a card? Like, it's not my birthday. It's not Christmas. It's not a special occasion. And I'm like, what do you mean it's not a special occasion? We're celebrating your win. We're celebrating the fact that you passed your bar exam. You are going to be one of the greatest lawyers of all time. And, she immediately started getting emotional and she goes, thank you. Thank you for saying that. I'm like, it's just the truth. You're going to be a great lawyer. And I told her, if you ever lose a case, just bounce back, like resilience tells us to do. But you're going to be a successful lawyer. And I believe it, and I'm proud of you. And I know you're going to be one of the greatest. Go out there and do your very best. And she was like, thank you so much. So, that's one of the ways that I celebrate my friends' wins. Because my friends, they celebrate my wins too. And, be happy for your friends. Be proud of your friends. When your friends share something with you, when they share a milestone, even if it's as simple as, hey, it's my 1-year anniversary with my girlfriend or my boyfriend, whatever the case may be happy for them for that. If your friend got a new house, new job, whatever, just something positive, always celebrate with them, no matter how small it is. They're going to remember that. Because eventually one day, if they ever fall into a place where they're going to question things, because maybe they're going through a rough patch in their life, one of the first things they're going to ask is, well, who's been there by my side? Who's been there to support me? Who's been there to help? Who's been there to celebrate with me when I win? And they're going to remember that, So, getting back to what we discussed, divine timing, as I close out this episode, life doesn't always give us what we ask for. Sometimes it just gives us exactly what we need. And when you look back one day, you may discover that what felt like a delay was actually divine timing. So I want you to always remember that. So, folks, this is all I got for episode 61 of the Resilient Podcast. I appreciate you all for tuning in today and listening to me talk about divine timing, talk about this new opportunity that I have, talk about celebrating your friends' wins. And again, I want to thank all my sponsors, officially 3 sponsors of the Resilient Podcast. How be that's a win. That's a milestone for me. 61 episodes in. And at episode 60, we introduced our 3rd sponsor. And this podcast has only been around for 2 years. Well, we're celebrating 2 years and a few months, but this whole journey started back in 2024, April 2024, and July 2026. We're 61 episodes in, and we have 3 sponsorships. I'm thankful for that. I really am. So, folks, I look forward to the next episode, episode 62. I hope you guys are ready for that one and buckle up, because it's going to be a great episode with a great guest. But, I want to take this moment to thank you all for listening. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you always for supporting me and the Resilient Podcast. I promise you that I will forever be grateful. And I look forward to the next episode. So until then, always remember to remain resilient. And I'll talk to you all soon. I'll see you all soon in the next episode. But for now, I am Rob Aurelius. And on the behalf of the Resilient Podcast, I want to say to you all, enjoy your summer. Enjoy what you got going on and keep moving forward no matter what. I'll talk to you all soon. Peace.